Unearth the Sinister Secrets of Apartment 4B, a spine-chilling tale of the haunted and cursed. Laura's heart raced as the shadows crept along her walls, whispering secrets of a dark past that made her skin crawl. Every night, as the clock struck midnight, a sinister chorus filled her modest apartment, a chilling cadence that only she could hear. It began as a low murmur, then transformed into hushed voices that tickled the edges of her sanity. Living alone with her two kids, 9-year-old Mia and 6-year-old Jordan, she brushed it off, telling herself that sleep deprivation made her hear things. But deep down, a sliver of fear wormed its way into her mind. One evening, she returned home from her shift at the late-night diner, the weight of anxiety heavy on her chest. The flickering hallway lights threw twisted shadows that danced across her path. With each creak of the floorboards, her pulse quickened. She entered apartment 4A, momentarily soothed by the memory of her children's laughter echoing in the small space. But that comfort shattered as the whispers grew louder, curling into her ears like smoke, words just out of reach. "Mommy?" Mia's sleepy voice broke the stillness. Laura turned to her daughter, her heart swelling with love. Yet, her relief was short-lived as the whispers continued, seeping through the thin walls and twisting the air around them. Increased fear twisted in her gut. It felt like something was lurking, something dark and powerful. Determined to uncover the truth, Laura ventured beyond her apartment, seeking answers from neighbors who seemed to harbor secrets much like her own. Old Mrs. Simmons on the third floor had a reputation for strangeness. Rumors of strange rituals and offerings, bread placed mysteriously at the base of the building's old, now abandoned well. Tension welled in Laura's chest as she realized the family who had lived in 4B before her vanished without a trace, swallowed by the building's sinister embrace. Before she could process what she had learned, Jake, the man in 4A, brought a sense of dread. His smooth charm masked intentions that chilled her to the bone. He claimed to be knowledgeable about the dark history of the building, but the more they spoke, the more she felt ensnared in his web. As the shadows began to shift on their own and furniture seemed to dance, a cold draft swept through the apartment, echoing laughter that was no longer innocent. One night, when Laura was jolted awake to find Jordan missing from his bed, she found him standing at the threshold of the darkened hallway, drawn to something that lurked in the depths of their home. "Jordan!" she cried, grabbing his shoulder just in time, pulling him back to safety. A shiver crawled up her spine. What was calling to him? "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Every knock for help was met with wary glances from their neighbors or dismissive authorities who waved off her fears. She could feel the walls pressing in, closing around her pinched heart as she pieced together the tragedy hidden in the building's fabric. But when her discovery led her to a familiar face among the gathering shadows, a thrill of terror coursed through her. Jake's twisted smile held within it secrets that refused to stay buried. In a world where trust was a fleeting thought, Laura faced a horrifying reality. The specter of dread threatened to snatch her children away, leaving her with only the echoes of her failing sanity. What would she learn as darkness wrapped around her? Could she save them before they were claimed by apartment 4B? Laura tightened her grip on Jordan's shoulder, her heart beating so loudly, she feared the entire building could hear it. The shadows beyond the door whispered, 1,000 voices intertwining, rising like a tide. She could feel Jordan tremble beside her, sensing her fear and mirroring it in his wide, innocent eyes. "What's out there, Mommy?" he asked, voice trembling. She opened her mouth to reassure him, but nothing came out. The truth clawed at her throat, a truth she wasn't ready to share. Instead, she steered him away from the doorway, back into the warm safety of their small living room. Mia was still asleep, blissfully unaware of the horrors creeping ever closer. "Let's play a game, okay? Just you and me," she said, forcing a smile. She settled onto the carpet, pulling Jordan into her lap, desperate to instill some sense of normalcy back into their lives, but the game quickly faded into silence as the shadows taunted them, breathing, shifting, everywhere. The chill grew heavier, and soon a soft knock echoed from the front door, carving through the tense air. Not a sound from inside, the world outside felt pressing, like a whisper that grew louder with each heartbeat. "Mommy, who's there?" Jordan asked, eyes darting to the door. I don't know," Laura managed, her breath hitching as she moved toward the door. The knock came again, more insistent this time. She hesitated, her hand hovering over the knob, gripping it with sweaty fingers. She took a deep breath, quickly glancing back at her son. "Stay right here," she murmured, stepping cautiously towards the door. With a deep breath, Laura opened it. There, in the dim hallway, stood Jake, the man from 4A, his eyes glinting in the flickering light, a knowing smile dancing on his lips. "Hey, Laura. Sorry to disturb you," he said, his voice smooth yet serpentine. "I thought I heard something unusual." Laura's heart raced, her stomach twisting. "What do you mean?" she asked, trying to hide the tremor in her voice. "Oh, you know, just the usual sounds of a haunted building. Some say it's the wind. Others say it's much more." His voice lowered, and he leaned closer, a shadow of menace lurking beneath his charm. "If you'd like, I can help you understand." Her pulse quickened. "Help me understand what?" With an exaggerated look of concern, Jake glanced toward their apartment. "The previous tenants of 4B. You might want to be careful. They had a difficult time." Just then, a loud crash echoed from the direction of the kitchen, causing Laura's breath to hitch. She spun around, panic gripping her heart. "Jordan! Stay by me!" she shouted, moving back toward her son. In her periphery, she caught a flicker of movement near the kitchen. "Laura, you should really listen," but she slammed the door shut, locking it quickly. Her heart thundered as she turned to Jordan. "We need to go." The boy's eyes widened in confusion. "Where?" "Anywhere but here." Before she could grab her things, a soft scratching noise erupted from the front door, a series of claws raking at the wood. Laura's breath caught in her throat. This was no longer just a haunting, something was actively trying to get inside, and it wanted her children. "Mommy, I'm scared," Jordan wailed, tears streaking down his cheeks. In that moment, the whispering voices surged louder, wrapping around her mind, resonating with a chilling melody that churned her stomach. "Look, Mommy!" Jordan exclaimed, pointing past Laura. She turned to follow his gaze, her blood running cold as she saw the shadows pooling at the edges of the room, slithering closer, a darkness awakening. "Mommy," he said, voice cracking. "I think it wants to play." The room darkened, and the whispers morphed into laughter, sinister and echoing, pulling at the very fabric of their reality. Laura felt ice slide down her spine as the door rattled violently, the scratching intensifying. Darkness clawed its way through every corner, wrapping around her, suffocating her will to fight. As the walls began to close in, all hope seemed lost. What was inside apartment 4B, and would it claim more than just her sanity? The laughter grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. Laura's last shred of hope twisted painfully in her gut. What had she awakened by setting foot in this cursed place? The shadows were closing in. The shadows thickened, swallowing the corners of the room as if they had weight, an oppressive presence encroaching on any semblance of safety. Every nerve in Laura's body screamed at her to flee, but she felt paralyzed, her feet glued to the carpet beneath her. Jordan's frightened whimpers broke through the dark laughter, pulling her back to the reality that they were not alone. "Mommy!" His small voice pierced the thick air, desperate and hollow, as the tick-tock of the wall clock morphed into a distorted cacophony of madness. She turned to him, wanting to assure him things would be okay, but the words failed her. The laughter crescendoed, a symphony of malice that danced through their surroundings. An eerie chill crept through the room, forcing Laura's breath to quaver. "We have to find a way out," she said, grabbing Jordan's hand and rushing toward the back door, praying the darkness wouldn't follow them. But the gnarled scratching at the front door was relentless, like nails digging deeper. "Mommy, what's happening?" Jordan's eyes were wide with fear, flickering between the door and the shadows that seemed to curl closer with every heartbeat. The back door swung open with a loud creak that echoed like a cry in a deserted tunnel, revealing a dark hallway leading to the unknown. It felt like a gaping mouth, ready to swallow them whole. Reinforcing her grip on Jordan, they stepped into the darkness, where the air felt thick and suffocating. "What if it follows us?" he whimpered, squeezing her hand tighter. "We can't think about that." "Just keep moving," Laura insisted, forcing her legs to move, each step a battle against the gnawing dread, the shadows trailing them like angry spirits. The hallway stretched endlessly, flickering lights overhead casting erratic shadows on the walls, twisting the pictures of smiling faces into horrifying grins. The laughter echoed down the corridor, warping into shrieks, and terrifying echoes of cries for help mixed with it, forcing Laura's heart to hammer against her chest. Suddenly, a door on their left flew open, a gust of cold air sweeping past them. Laura froze. The invitation of that door felt like a siren-esque call, beckoning her closer, offering a way out, but at what cost? "Mommy! Let us go!" Jordan cried, pulling her past the open door, fear evident in his eyes. But she hesitated, drawn to the mystery within. "Just a quick look," she muttered, her curiosity battling her instinct. She stepped inside as if in a trance, Jordan trailing reluctantly behind her. The room was filled with dust-covered furniture and faded photographs, but the air buzzed with a biting energy that made Laura's skin crawl. In the corner, a child's doll sat with a cracked porcelain face, eyes wide and hollow staring directly at her. A low rumble, like thunder, reverberated through the room. Panic overtook her. Maybe this wasn't the safety they desperately needed. She turned to find Jordan looking towards the doll, his expression morphing from confusion to horror. Before she could move, the doors slammed shut behind them with a deafening bang. Darkness flooded the room, engulfing them. "Mommy!" Jordan shrieked, grappling for her. The once familiar contours of the room twisted and warped. The doll's eyes glowed, laughter erupting from it, chilling them to the bone. "Laura!" It wasn't just their fear that filled the air anymore. Voices, soft and sweet, licked at the edges of her mind. "Come play with us." As the shadows surged forward, tendrils of darkness wrapping cruelly around her ankles, Laura had only one thought: they were not alone, not in this room, not in this building. Desperate, she gripped Jordan's hand tighter, frantically searching for an escape. They had to find a way out before whatever this was consumed them whole. A new sound pierced the air, a shriek, haunting and familiar, carried across the eerie laughter. "Mia! What have I done?" Laura thought, heart sinking as she realized the terrible truth: she dragged them all into this horror. The doll's laughter swelled, feeding off her dread. The shadows poured closer as she realized they might not leave this place alive. Where was Mia? And what did the darkness want with them? The darkness pressed in, wrapping around Laura like a suffocating shroud. Her heart pounded violently, drowning out the eerie laughter that echoed through the room. She tightened her grip on Jordan's small hand, the warmth of his fingers a fragile reminder of reality amidst the chaos. "Mommy, I'm scared." Jordan's voice was a whimper, a plea that drove a blade of fear deep into her chest. She could feel the shadows swirling around them, alive and capricious. In the corners of her vision, she saw them darting about, claws extended, ready to drag them into an endless void. The doll sat there, its cracked face hauntingly serene. The glow from its eyes illuminated a sliver of the room, casting grotesque shadows that danced menacingly on the walls. It laughed again, a sound like shattered glass, each note a jagged cut against the fabric of sanity. "Come play," it chimed, voice echoing as if stitched into the fibers of their very flesh. "Shut up!" Laura screamed, desperate to silence the voice that fed on their fear. The air thickened with dread, suffocating in its intensity. She recognized it, the chilling promise of something ancient and predatory, lurking just beyond the veil of the known, searching for escape. Laura's eyes darted around the room. Dust-covered furniture loomed like forgotten monuments to despair. She spotted a small window high on the far wall, light barely filtering through the grime. But first, she had to wrestle her son from the grasp of the malevolent force at play. "Jordan, listen to me," she said, her voice firm despite her quaking insides. "We need to climb. Can you do that?" "Yes." But his voice trembled as he pointed at the doll. "It's staring at me, Mommy. I don't like it." Before Laura could respond, she heard a soft whimper of voice from beside her, trapped in the same suffocating gloom. "Let us out. Please, Mia." The name knotted in her throat. "Mia!" She shouted, a desperate instinct compelling her to reach for a shadow that flickered on the edge of reality. But as soon as she cried it, the room trembled, vibrating ominously beneath her feet. The doll's laughter transformed into a cacophony of voices, merging maddeningly. "Come play with us," they chanted, a singing that reverberated through her bones. It felt less like a request and more like a demand, an insidious seller offering something deeply unsettling. "No. No. We can't stay here," Laura shouted, fear blooming into a frantic urge to act. She pulled Jordan toward her, yanking him away from the doll's penetrating stare. When she turned to the window, the shadows stirred, swirling like a storm about to break. Time felt warped, lost in the distant echoes of reality. Every second stretched long, tainted with stagnant dread. Together, they stumbled toward the back wall, and with one last shove against the oppressive dark, Laura cried out, "Hold on to me." With a surge of instinct, she lifted Jordan, hoisting him toward the window, desperation roaring in her ears. But something else lurked within the dark, a whisper curling around her mind. "You'll never leave." In that instant, the wall shook violently. Vaporous shadows expanded, clinging like hungry vines around Laura's feet. "No." The defiance surged within her. She refused to let it take her. With an explosive yell, she pushed Jordan up and through the window, praying he'd land safely on the other side. As he disappeared into daylight, the shadows lunged for her, and the room erupted into chaos. In a terrifying burst of activity, Laura found herself losing balance, her back slamming against the wall as the dark surged toward her, ready to pull her into its clutches. "Mommy, help!" Jordan cried, already distant, his small voice fading as the light began to recede. Laura reached for him, her fingers barely grazing the edge of his hand before the shadows engulfed her completely. Despair pierced through her. Was Jordan safe? "Mommy!" The echoes of her name whispered back through the darkness. She felt herself sinking, doubt fluttering through her mind like moths drawn to a flame. What had she called forth by trespassing into this twisted place? What if they never made it out? A tremor of laughter erupted from the darkness, a sound as hollow as the vacant eyes of the doll. "You've come to stay." And just before everything went black, she heard a voice from the clutches of the darkness. Help! Could the shadows be with Mia? And if so, what price would she have to pay to save them both? Darkness closed in like a coffin, silencing all sense of time and space. For what felt like an eternity, Laura drifted in a void, her thoughts swirling with fear and desperation. A suffocating weight pushed down on her chest, leaving her gasping as if the very shadows were trying to suffocate her spirit. "Mommy!" The voice crept back, faint yet unrelenting. She strained to listen, to latch on to the echo of Jordan's cry. Somehow, it felt distant and yet close, a tug-of-war between two realms. "Jordan!" She shouted into the void, limbs heavy and thick as lead. But the darkness shimmered like a mirage, weaving forms just beyond her reach. "Help us!" A chorus of lost voices filled the air, squeezing her heart with icy fingers. They were muted and far, cries of children merging into the surrounding gloom. Mia's voice broke through, a haunting wail from somewhere deep inside the shadows. "Help us, Laura! We're here!" Her instinct surged. She had to find her son. Hadn't she just pushed him to safety? It felt like a dream, a nightmare twisting the truth. Panic throbbed in her temples, and suddenly, the suffocating darkness seemed alive, pushing against her skin like cold hands. She stumbled forward, hands groping, reaching for something, anything. The cool touch of a zipper caught her fingers, a strange sensation that was almost familiar. With desperation, she pulled, feeling fabric give way as shadows twisted around her wrists, tugging and gnashing with desperate intent. The moment she broke free from the grip, a hiss echoed through the air. This startled her into action. "Mia." She called again, but only silence threaded through the cool air. She could feel the shadows, could sense the watchful eyes trained on her every move. The world shifted slightly, light bubbling up through the darkness like a fragile memory. It flickered, breaking through her fear like the first shards of dawn. Clarity trembled at the edges of her consciousness. She wasn't alone. Footsteps echoed nearby, soft but penetrating. The shadows shrank, curling back like shy creatures. In the dim light, she caught sight of a form faint but tangible. Laura. The voice drew closer, painfully familiar. "Mia." The name tumbled out, pleading and desperate. "Where are you?" But the weight of uncertainty pressed down again. The figure morphed, shimmering through haze and doubt. Was it Mia? Or something more sinister, seeking to deceive her? "Mommy." Jordan's voice was louder now, a solid lifeline breaking through the veil. Laura turned, following the sound, her heart racing in response. Each step felt heavy, as if the ground clawed at her ankles, demanding she stay in the thick of the dark. But she couldn't stop. "Hold on. I'm coming." She surged forward, desperate to catch hold of his little frame. Hope became a fragile spark as she began to grasp the edges of the light. The walls seemed to moan, shifting in a rhythm that sent shivers crawling down her spine. The eerie antagonist of the room loomed behind her, shadows knit together with malevolence. "Leave now, or forever be one of us," it whispered, a low hiss that echoed dark promises. "Mommy, please." Jordan cried again, a cry that nearly shattered her resolve. Something in Laura snapped. "Enough." She roared, face contorting with fierce determination. She charged towards the voices, through a curtain of relentless darkness. The shadows howled around her, but she kept moving, spurred on by fear and love. As the light enveloped her, she reached for Jordan. But just as their fingers brushed, the world exploded. A new darkness unfurled, vast and consuming, spinning her into a whirlpool of shadow. Then nothing but silence, shrouded darkness swallowing up her scream as a chilling echo resonated, unnervingly familiar. "We're still here, and we're not alone." In that devastating stillness, she felt something shift, an understanding creeping into her mind. There was something else waiting on the edge of this darkness. Something eager. Hungry. And the question screamed in the back of her mind, louder than the shadows, "What have I awakened?" The silence swallowed Laura whole, the weight of it pressing against her chest like a vice. She felt driftwood in a tide, lost, helpless. Instinctively, she uncurled her fingers, reaching into the void, frantic for any scrap of reality. Her heart pounded a desperate rhythm, each beat urging her forward, away from the grasp of darkness. Then, a flicker, a point of light, small yet inviting, shimmered ahead like a star in a black sky. It pulsed gently, luring her closer. Laura surged forward, driven by the echo of her son's name, its melody a lifeline she couldn't let go of. "Jordan!" she shouted, though her voice trembled, uncertainty clawing at her. Shadows warped and swirled, eager to close in around her. As she approached the light, the path twisted and turned. She felt as if she were walking through a dream, the walls shifting like curtains drawn across her vision. The whispers came back, a buzzing in her ears, a cacophony of despair. "Help us!" they pleaded. "Return what was stolen. What do you want from me?" Her voice burst forth, raw and shattered. There was no response but the rustling of silence, and then came the low, purposeful creak of a door. The light widened, spilling over the threshold of what looked like an apartment 4B. The number loomed, a dark omen. Laura hesitated, the key to her son's freedom and the unknown twisted together like thorny vines in her mind. She stepped into the room, her breath caught in her throat. Inside, the air felt electrically charged. Dust motes floated in the beam of light, dancing as if they carried stories of despair. Each corner of the room was filled with shadows, darker and deeper than the ones she had just escaped. A child's toy lay on the floor, a pink teddy bear, its button eye missing. "Mia!" Laura called again, clenching her fists, fighting to ground herself. There was a pull, an urgency that felt undeniable. She approached the toy, finger hovering above it. What did it mean? Would it guide her to her daughter? Before she could decide, a rush of wind swept through the room, casting the door shut with a deafening bang that echoed like a gunshot. The sound jolted her, and terror seized her heart. "Mommy, please." The call was unmistakably Jordan's, echoing with distress, cutting through the static of despair. It came from behind another door at the far end of the room, a door that looked warped, as if it had been clawed at. Laura rushed toward it, her every step electrified with urgency. But as she reached for the doorknob, she froze. The shadows coalesced, whispering secrets in a sinister multitude of voices that scraped against her sanity. "You don't belong here, you will lose him too, just like the others. Stop!" She screamed, spinning around, but their phantoms surrounded her, clawing at her mind, twisting her memories. Faces emerged in the dark, lost, anguished, pleading. Had they been captured, too? Their hollow eyes bore into her, and she knew then that something unholy thrived here. Gritting her teeth, she turned back to the door, determination surging through her veins. The fear wrapped around her heart, squeezing tighter. "I'm coming, Jordan." Her words were fierce, filled with a mother's love that felt as sturdy as armor, but behind her, the shadows began to laugh, a sound that chilled her spine and filled her with dread. "Are you so sure you'll find him before we find you?" They were closing in, thick and suffocating, their laughter ringing in her ears. What had Laura awakened deep in apartment 4B? And what horrors awaited on the other side of that door? The cold air echoed her breath, leaving only one chilling thought: the darkness was hungry, and it was ready to feed. With a surge of resolve, Laura twisted the rusted doorknob. It felt sticky under her fingertips, as if it had absorbed the weight of despair that hung in the air. She shoved the door open, a crack splitting the suffocating darkness. Fear and desperation danced in her veins, but she pressed on, steeling her mind against the whispers that emanated from the abyss around her. The air grew heavier, thick with the scent of mildew and something sweetly decayed. The room beyond was unlike anything she'd imagined. An oppressive darkness settled in the corners, making the walls seem to pulse, breathing in sync with her dread. Faint, flickering light seeped through a closed window, illuminating a figure in the corner. "Jordan!" She cried out, the name echoing against the stark silence. Her heart raced as her gaze darted around the room. Old furniture lay strewn haphazardly, casting ghostly shadows that wriggled and writhed like worms on decay. The figure turned a child, no more than 7. But the face, Jordan's face, was smudged with something dark, dirt that looked like blood in the dim light. He stood frozen, eyes wide yet vacant, the kind of stare that chilled a mother's heart. "Mommy," his voice was small, almost lost in the rustle of the shadows that seemed to claw at the walls. "Help, no, no, no." She stepped forward but was abruptly halted by a cold hand gripping her ankle, a skeletal grasp that sent ice lancing through her veins. She looked down to find a woman face twisted in agony, her eyes weeping black tears. "You'll lose him, too," she rasped, her voice layered with endless sorrow. "Get away from me!" Laura screamed, wrenching her foot from the woman's grasp. Desperation fueled her every move as she rushed to Jordan, ignoring the shadows that loomed larger, darker. The whispers grew louder, a torrent of voices layering over one another, each begging, pleading. "We need you, give it back, don't let it take him, Jordan." She screamed again, her voice a knife slicing through the chaos. She reached for her son, but before she could wrap her arms around him, he shrank back, eyes darting away. "Mommy, it's not safe." Before she could question him, the walls shuddered. The once sturdy door slammed shut behind her, the echo tearing through her sanity. The shadows congealed, spiraling as if in a life of their own, enveloping everything in an impenetrable shroud of dark. "What do you want?" The desperation clawed at her throat, each word a fight against the suffocating darkness. A voice, low and sonorous, rumbled from all directions, chilling her marrow. "What we want is the return of what you took from us." Laura's breath hitched. What could they possibly want? She had come here to find her son, to pull him from this nightmare. Shaking with fear, she glanced toward Jordan, whose gaze had turned distant, almost lost. "I didn't take anything," she whispered, her heart sinking. But doubt flickered in her mind, the shadows whispering her past, her mistakes, her regrets. Had she unwittingly trapped him here? The tension in the room increased moment by moment, a tenacity of fear pressing against her chest like a vice. The hands reached out again, grasping at her, a deluge of faces all crying, all pleading for acknowledgement. "Mommy, please." Jordan's voice echoed once more, snapping Laura from the encroaching darkness. She stepped closer, gathering her courage, searching for the grip of her son's small hand. "Stay with me, Jordan. I won't leave you." But as she extended her hand, the shadows lunged forward, a wave of icy despair that swallowed everything whole. The darkness surged around her like a storm, and she could no longer see or hear anything. Laura was lost again, engulfed in that consuming void, the desperate beat of her heart echoed only by whispered cries, urging her to understand, to remember. What had she taken from this place? And at what cost would she have to bargain for her son's return? As the whispers grew louder, one horrifying realization crashed against her mind: maybe Jordan was safer in this darkness than he ever was with her. It wasn't over. Yet, the true horror had only just begun. The whispers coiled tighter around Laura, a cacophony that clawed at her mind. She squeezed her eyes shut, desperate for silence, for clarity. As she stood there, suspended in darkness, glimmers of memories flickered like fireflies. Stolen moments with Jordan, laughter echoing through their sunlit home, the warmth of his small body beside hers at night. Then shadows of guilt crept in, moments of neglect, fleeting frustrations that turned to anger. Had she wished him away? Mommy, Jordan's voice was distant now, like a ghost of what he once was. She opened her eyes, fear turning to resolve. "I'm here, Jordan. I won't leave you." Suddenly, a sharp, blinding light erupted. She stumbled back, hands shielding her eyes, and when she looked again, she was no longer alone. A tall figure loomed in the center of the room, backlit by that strange, flickering glow. Its outline was vague, yet the air hummed with its ominous presence. The shadows recoiled, thrumming violently, afraid. "Who are you?" Laura managed, her voice small. The figure stepped forward, becoming clearer. It was a woman, hair unkempt like a wild, dark sea. Her face, pale and gaunt, reflected a torment that spoke volumes without words. "You've come to reclaim what isn't yours." "What?" Panic surged. "I only want my son." "No." The woman lingered, pointing a trembling finger at her, eyes hollow but alight with malice. "You took him when you entered. He is ours now." Laura's heart raced. "But he's my son. Your actions brought him here. You're bound to this place, just like the rest of us." The walls quaked, and memories flooded back, revealing images trapped within the decay, mothers wailing for lost children, lovers remade from ash, echoes of betrayal weaving through their despair. "Let him go. He doesn't belong here." Her voice broke, shredding beneath the weight of her helplessness. The woman's smile curled like dead leaves. "This is not a matter of choice. You must pay a price, a sin to be confessed. He will remain unless you unearth the truth." Laura stepped back. "What truth?" "Your past lies buried. Secrets fester in this very room. Unearth them, or face the darkness with him. The choice is yours." A door appeared at the far end of the room, jagged and gnarled, like the root of a dying tree. It looked ancient, beaten by time and shadows, yet it pulsated with a strange energy. The whispers intensified, echoing her own guilt. Find it, remember, confess. As she stood at the threshold, memories of a forgotten day crashed into her, horrible, vivid flashes of choices made too hastily, words spoken in anger. The day she had yelled at Jordan, the sweltering heat of summer, how she rushed him to school, and then everything changed. "Mommy, please." Jordan's voice, a plea from the edge of the shadows, tears sprung in her eyes, but she held steadfast to the truth. "I won't lose you, Jordan. I'll get you out." She crossed the threshold, the door creaking ominously behind her. She was plunged into darkness again, but sensed she was standing in a different place. The chill of long-buried memories wrapped around her like a shroud. Each step forward demanded sacrifice. Every corner hidden with tales of despair awaited her in this haunting void. What had she done to Jordan? And what would it truly take to free him? With her heart pounding, she whispered into the dark, "I'm coming for you, Jordan. I will set you free." A whisper floated through the air. "Will you face the truth, or allow him to remain one of us?" Laura paused, dread washing over her. Could she confront the darkness within her? What horrific truth awaited? And would she become just another echo in this tortured realm? The air thickened, oppressive, like a weight pressing down on Laura's chest. Every breath felt labored, suffocated by the echoing memories surrounding her. She squinted, trying to distinguish the shapes shifting in the shadows. A hallway stretched before her, illuminated by an eerie glow that flickered like a failing light bulb. "Jordan," she whispered again, the name carrying the heaviness of her heart, desperate to drown out the whispers clawing at her resolve. A rustling sound came from the distance, followed by the softest plea, "Mommy." It was so faint, yet it twisted inside her, igniting a flame of hope and despair simultaneously. She pushed forward, each step reverberating painfully in her ears as fractured memories flashed like broken glass, each shard glinting with regret. A door stood ajar to her left, the paint peeling like scabbed skin. In hesitance, she approached, drawn like a moth to a flame. Cautiously, she nudged it open and stepped inside. The room was small, cluttered with children's toys scattered across the floor, forgotten remnants of laughter. A faded photograph sat atop a dusty dresser, her and Jordan at a birthday party, his small hands covered in cake, eyes alight with joy. But as she gazed deeper into the image, it morphed. Jordan's face twisted into a grimace of pain and longing. "No!" she yelled, shoving the picture away. The past clawed at her, insistent and relentless. Suddenly, the air grew icy, and the room seeped a menacing chill. Spectral figures rose from the floor, their faces marked by grief, mouths moving in silent screams. A mother wailing, a father clutching an empty cradle, souls trapped in anguish. Laura's heart raced. She staggered back into the hallway, the whispers coiling tighter. "No!" she cried. "I won't let this happen." But her voice fell flat against the chilling reality. As she turned, something caught her eye, a small door barely visible at the far end of the corridor. It throbbed with a sense of urgency, a sing-song lure wrapped in dread. Driven by sheer desperation, she rushed towards it, her pulse roaring in her ears. The whispers crescendoed, begging her to stop, but she pushed through, tearing the door open. Inside, the room was a twisted reflection of her mind, filled with shadowy figures that danced in a macabre ballet. In one corner, a boy was playing with a truck, his laughter hollow and echoing through the void. Jordan. The realization slammed into her like a tidal wave. Jordan. She lunged forward. But just as she reached him, he vanished into thin air, leaving only a lingering chill where he once stood. The walls pulsed menacingly, and the air grew thicker, choking her. "Face your sins," a voice boomed, vibrating through her bones. "Only then can you save him." Panic engulfed her, and she spun around, feeling the shadows closing in. Images swirled, the fights, the moments of negligence, when her frustration cut deeper than any knife. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," she cried out, tears streaming down her face. But the darkness hungered, writhing at her feet, and as the shadows licked at her skin, they tightened their grip around her throat. An agonizing scream erupted from somewhere deep within her, unraveling her sanity. The women and men loomed closer, mouths opening in a grisly cheer, welcoming her into their fold. "Will you confess, Laura? Or will he be forever lost to you?" A rush of realization shot through her. If she didn't confront her past, Jordan would remain lost in this malevolent existence. She gasped for breath, trying to pry open the vault of memories locked inside her. "What do you want me to say?" The shadows seemed to mock her. "Uncover the truth." Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness, more defined now, clad in shadows. "You know what you must do." Her heart pounded in dread and determination. Could she really face her demons? Would truth, buried under guilt, save Jordan or consume her whole? The room began to shake, fissures opening like wounds. Laura felt a cold wave wash over her as she screamed into the void. "I will fight for him. I will face the truth." As she raced towards the specter, ready to confront whatever lay ahead, a deafening silence fell. Then came the chilling whisper, wrapping around her like an embrace, "Are you certain, Laura? The past never truly lets go." Laura stood on the precipice of the unknown, heart pounding, as shadows danced menacingly around her once more. Would she summon the courage she so desperately needed, or would the truth of her past be her undoing? Laura's breath hitched in her throat as she faced the swirling mass of shadows. They beckoned, drawing closer with an insidious hunger, coiling around her limbs like serpents. The air pulsed thick with their malice, echoing an ancient darkness that wrapped itself around her spirit. "Jordan!" she shouted, desperation crashing against the weight of dread pushing down on her. The shadows twisted, a cacophony of laughter ringing through the air, a cruel mockery of her pleas. Every fiber of her being screamed to flee, but the fierce love for her son anchored her in place. "I'm coming for you." The darkness roared as if it meant to drown her voice, but she pressed on. "I will confront you. I won't let you take him." The words erupted from her, laced with desperation and defiance. A flicker of light rippled through the void, illuminating faint, ghostly outlines of figures, lost souls trapped in agony. Their sorrow pulsed through the air, wrapping around her heart, squeezing tight. The spectral woman appeared once again, her gaunt face a mirror of suffering. "You've come back," she hissed, her voice slithering through the shadows. "Will you face the truth now, or do you choose to lose him forever?" "I choose to fight," Laura declared, her voice echoing resolutely. Before her, the gnarled door she had first encountered pulsed with tangible tension, enticing and terrifying. "Then unearth your sin," the woman intoned, her eyes glimmering with a wicked allure. "Only then can you set him free." Laura felt a jolt of determination surge through her, wrestling against the chilling truth that loomed in the back of her mind. She stumbled toward the door, her hand trembling as she twisted the knob. The hinges creaked ominously as it swung open. Inside, specters flitted about, manifestations of her grief. Guilt weighed heavy on her heart as she faced the fractured memories looming before her. Images of laughter twisted into screams, enveloping her in a whirlwind of regret. Days her frustration had manifested as a snapped word, moments where love had faltered. "Mommy, help!" The soft cry of Jordan echoed around her, and she felt the shadows ripple a response to her pain. "Jordan! I'm here!" She screamed, forcing herself further into the room, each step heavier than the last. The chaos swirled, shadows dancing wildly, enveloping each specter in a merciless embrace. "Are you ready to confess?" their hollow whispers urged. "Yes," she yelled, desperate to breach the suffocating grip of guilt. "I'll face every mistake, every moment I should have been better. I'm sorry." The words tumbled out, raw and honest. "I'm sorry for letting you feel alone. I'm sorry for the times I lost my patience with you." The room heaved as if responding to her confession. The shadows stilled momentarily, listening, swirling with their own haunting sorrow. Laura pressed on, trembling but determined. I should have seen you, I should have fought harder. I let my fears drown out your voice. A sudden silence enveloped her, a pause pregnant with anticipation. In that stillness, the shadows flickered, revealing glimpses of a past made real, a montage of love, joy, heartache, and neglect melded. With every memory laid bare, Laura felt the oppressive grip of guilt loosen, allowing air back into her lungs. The specter of that grieving woman viewed her with an intensity that pierced the veil of darkness. Say it, she urged, her hollow voice both haunting and hopeful. Free him. I regret not being present enough. I regret every tear I didn't wipe away. Laura's voice trembled but grew steadier as she pressed on. I regret the days when my anger overshadowed my love. I will fight for Jordan, and I will give him everything, my heart, my soul. Please let him go. Light began to seep in, flooding the corners of despair as the shadows shrieked, writhing as if caught in a storm. The specters around her shimmered like reflections in glass, faltering as if her words were erasing their pain. With every heartfelt confession, shadow by shadow, they began to dissolve into the light, their sorrows released. Jordan, she cried. I'm coming. The darkness erupted, unleashing a final howl of rage. The shadows screamed, swirling dangerously, attempting to regain their impossible grip, but Laura's resolve flared brighter. She stepped forward, shoving her way through the musty air until she felt a tug at her heart that felt almost magnetic. In that moment, she burst through the final veil, breaking free into brilliance. Light saturated her skin, a warmth replacing the frigid claws that had held her down. The shadows screamed in agony, fading into chaotic wisps of what once was, but they could not hold her anymore. Laura's eyes darted around, and there within the blinding light was Jordan. Mommy! He exclaimed, arms reaching out, his eyes wide with relief and amazement. Ah! The sound that escaped her was a mix of disbelief and relief. She rushed to him, swallowing him in a fierce embrace, warmth flooding back to her shattered spirit. I'm here, sweet boy. You're safe now. With a fierce grip on his shoulders, she pulled back long enough to see his face. Did you hear me? I fought for you. We're going home. As they fled the remnants of darkness, a soft light enveloped them, ushering them away from despair. She felt the warmth of hope swelling in her chest, and as they reached the threshold of the exit, the presence of shadows slipped into the fissures of memory, lost but no longer consuming. The door creaked gently shut behind them, and with every step they took into the light, the echoes of past sorrow faded until they were but whispers of the night, unseen and unheard. Never again, Laura swore softly, holding her son close as they stepped out into the sun-kissed glow of a new day. Never again will I let the darkness come near you. And as she turned to guide them down the hall, a sensation washed over her, one of profound peace, like a weight had lifted from her soul. The apartment building, laden with its shadows, faded behind them, a memory buried under the hope of brighter tomorrows, but deep down, she understood one thing: she was the guardian of their light now, a fierce protector against the whispers that once sought to tear them apart. They stepped into a world flooded with warmth. Hand in hand, together, they embraced their freedom as the future beckoned. Before you go, make sure you subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that dive into the abyss of fear and resilience. Smash that like button now, it's crucial to feed the algorithm. I can't stress enough how much your support means. And don't forget to flood the comments with your reactions and theories. I want to hear from you. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, because this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second, it's time to stand together.